So, hi everyone, we are Naomi, Melissa, and Anai, and we're going to present you some strategies to develop critical thinking. The first one is student error correction. The objective of it is proposed to provide information or feedback to students to support their learning. Student error correction is a kind of correction where the student is going to be the protagonist. It means that the teacher is going to give some clues or direction to make the students realize what was the mistake and consequently make the student correct the mistakes. When use it, it is going to depend on the activity, but according to it, there will be these kinds. The first one is meaning and communication blockers. In this case, it's necessary to correct mistakes affecting the meaning rather than little grammatical points. For example, please, can you show me the codes? There isn't a meaning problem. The second one is high frequency errors. The teacher should correct the most repetitive mistakes. And the last one is mistake of form. In this case, the mistake happened when the student is influenced by his or her first language. This strategy will develop critical thinking when the student has to realize the mistakes that he or she committed. For instance, in a writing work, the teacher will underline some mistakes and indicate the error using an abbreviation like ESP, that means spelling mistake, or WT, that means wrong tense. And the student should be the one that will correct the mistake based on what the teacher remarks.
Okay, so the second strategy is learning process based on a participatory dialogue. In this strategy, the objective is to generate process of active listening and group construction of knowledge through the participation and dialogue around a given topic and following the methodology of sequential questions led by the teacher. It consists of using dialogue to reach knowledge. In a group form, the dialogue is raised around a particular topic that is postulated in the form of a question. From the answers, other questions are generated to go deeper into the subject. In this case, the teacher is attentive to raise possible contradiction or inaccuracies to encourage analysis. The teacher tries to make the students themselves realize their own mistakes, and is not afraid of discussion as long as the thread of the discourse is managed. So to be able to apply this, we have to follow 7 steps. The first one is to set common goals and objectives. In this case, the teacher chooses a topic that is of the interest to the group and is in accordance with the area address. This topic is a starting point to generate disposition in the group and therefore to deal with it in an active and participatory way. The second step is framing the activity. In this case, there is going to be a line of discussion that will be followed without leaving the topic. The brief presentation of any ideas is made taking into account the question that is being discussed. The third step is to pose the main question. It is the question around which the discussion will result. It has to be a motivating question which generates the interest of the students. Step number 4, generate other questions. It continues with the question methodology, taking care to the maintain of thread, reflection, and introducing it deeply. Step number 5 is periodically summarize. The summary helps to make clarity about what has been resolved and what still needs to be resolved. In this way, the discussion is kept alive and the progress is made in depth. Step number 6 is conclusions. In a group way, the conclusions that have been reached and what will still remain as a topic for a new session are drawn. Step number 4 is evaluation. It is carried out with the same methodology that is participatory dialogue, and it serves to mature in the application of the strategy and strengthen the basic element that enable the future success of the activity. That is active listening. That also has to be clear and informed participation, maintaining the spirit of the group elaboration. This strategy significantly improves critical thinking skills and can be used in various subjects as it improves capacities and learning. If this strategy is applied, competence and knowledge are developed skills, solve problems, make decisions, enhance their skills, and above all, improve critical thinking and creativity.
Okay, the third strategy is interpretation and expressions from image, symbols, or non-verbal language. It presents three objectives. The first one, to stimulate the ability to make critical reading and expression of ideas, concepts, or feelings from visual communication. Number two, to enable interpretation and generate sensitivity to symbolic and nonverbal language. And number three, to promote awareness of the reality that lives. It basically consists of reading and expression from images or nonverbal language. A theme, an idea, a feeling, and even a theoretically or philosophical concept can be expressed through a drawing, a symbol, or a photograph. For reading, photographs are used taking in account all the aspects that influence its meaning, such as place, time or date, characters, nonverbal language gestures. For the expression of your ideas, concepts, or feelings, you can use photographs as well as drawings and symbols. The stages. First one is selection. The teacher can do it initially, but then the student can also do it when they know the strategy. It can be done individually or in a group. The photographs or symbols are selected according to the topic on which you want to reflect. In the case of photography, it should mainly impact those who choose it. Generate concern and reflection. The chosen symbols must express a meaning for the one who takes it. The number two is signification. It reflects on the meaning that the photograph or symbol can give it. Number three, study. The photograph or symbol generates analysis and study of the situation. However, shows us it must investigate the context, the situation, and the phenomenon related to said photograph. Number four, exposition. Who present the symbol, image, or photograph, explain to others its meaning and all its implications. And the last one, participation, is generated and others contribute other points of view for their enrich their reflection.
Well, the fourth strategy is peer review. And this is a strategy that has a purpose that students help or to make students help each other to arrive at the correct form. Learning to reflect on their own work, self-edit, listen to their peers, and assist others with constructive feedback. So the peer review refers to the many ways in which students can share their creative work with peers for constructive feedback, and then use this feedback to revise or to review and improve their work. So here we have the strategies to develop this strategy. So the first one, we have that communicating with the students about the purpose and benefits of peer review assessment. This will have a positive impact on a student's attitudes towards the task. The second one is clear and guided assessment criteria are the key to successful peer review exercises. The third one, we have that allocating class time to discuss rubric questions criteria helps students to understand both course content and the evaluation process. The next one is peer review of writing is the most effective because when students have an opportunity to revise their writings prior to submitting a grade. And the last one is the research studies suggest that students tend to struggle to review mid-range quality writings compared to high or poor quality writings. So offering, in this case, we have to offer in structured design examples of poor, mid-range, and excellent writings that can help students to understand common writing and content errors. And the last one, but not least, is the role playing. So the role playing mainly pretends to develop different kinds of skills of the students as talking public, reacting on different situations, fast thinking, and improve the imagination. So the role playing basically is based on dramatization, and it is about applying the theory, experiencing different situations firsthand based on simulations in pairs or groups, where each participant assumes a role and acts, putting their knowledge into practice and assimilating new ones. To do this, each participant assumes a character or a specific character and resorts to improvisation to solve a certain situation based on their knowledge. Okay, to apply this strategy, we have some stages, and we have the first stage. First is to identify the situation. To start the process, gather people together, introduce the problem, and encourage an open discussion to uncover all of the relevant issues. This will help people to start thinking about the problem before the role playing begins. If you are in a group and people are unfamiliar with each other, consider doing some icebreaker exercises beforehand. And at the second stage is at details. So you have to set up a scenario in a note, a detail for it to feel real. Make sure that everyone is clear about the problem that you are trying to work through and that they know what you want to achieve by the end of the session. The step 3 is assign roles. So once you set the scene, identify the various fictional characters involved in the scenario. Some of these may be people who have to deal with the situation when it actually happens. For example, salespeople. Others will represent people who are supportive or hostile, depending on the scenario. For example, an angry client. So once you identify these roles, allocate them to the people involved in your exercise. They should use your imagination to put themselves inside the minds of the people that they are representing. This involves trying to understand their perspectives, goals, motivations, and feelings when they enter the situation. So you may find the perceptual positions and technique useful here. The step 4 is act out the scenario. Each person can then assume their role and act out the situation, trying different approaches where necessary. It can be useful if the scenarios build up in intensity. For instance, if the aim of your role play is to practice a sales meeting, the person playing the role of the potential client could start as an ideal client. And through a series of scenarios could become increasingly hostile and difficult. You could then test and practice different approaches for handling situations so that you can give participants experience in handling them. And the last one step is to discuss what you have learned. When you finish the role play, discuss what you've learned so that you or the people involved can learn from the experience. And learning interest is essential in creating effective discussions results so that a student can improve their critical thinking skills. That is why this is a good strategy to develop critical thinking while motivating students, as it was proved in some research where it is mentioned that the role-playing model has an effect of providing meaningful learning in improving CTS and interest in learning. After all, then they have to improvise, they have to analyze and pay careful attention and find the correct way to all the details that are presented in order to do it accurately. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you for your attention.